Question 20. Work out the size of angle X. I've got a non-right angle triangle here, so I know that I'm going to use either the sine rule or the cosine rule. Now, I've got two things that match here, so that tells me I am going to use the sine rule. So I'm going to start by saying, well, the thing that I don't know is an angle, so I'm going to put the sine of the angle, and I've got that on the numerator to make things easier, divided by 6. So the sine of the angle X divided by 6 is equal to the sine of 125 divided by 14. Okay, so that means that the sine of the angle X must be equal to, now multiply both sides of these equations by 6, so I get 6 sine 125 divided by 14. So if I put that into my calculator, I've got 6 sine 125 divided by 14, and that gives me 0.351, etc. So that tells me that, we'll write that down. So that tells me that X must be equal to the inverse sine of 0.351. So let's do the inverse sine of that, and that gives us 20.6 to 3 significant figures. So we can say my answer is going to be X is equal to 20.6 degrees. Question 21. We need to solve 5x squared is equal to 10x plus 4 and give our answer to 2 decimal places. Now the thing to spot over here straight away is that this is a quadratic equation, and as soon as we realize it's a quadratic equation, we want to write it in the standard form for a quadratic equation. So that's where it's going to be equal to 0. So I'm going to rewrite this equation as 5x squared take away 10x take away 4 is equal to 0. I'm then going to write down what the values of a, b and c are going to be, so that I can use my quadratic formula, which I'll write down over here first. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so a is going to be equal to 5, b is going to be equal to negative 10, and c is going to be equal to negative 4. I'm also going to write down the value of the discriminant, which is b squared take away 4ac, and that there is going to be, b squared is 100, and it's going to be take away 4 times 5, which is 20, times the negative 4, which is negative 80. So if I take away negative 80, that's the same as plus 80. So that's going to be equal to 180. Right, I'm just going to show you how I could have used my calculator to calculate the discriminant. So I could have put in, for b squared, it's negative 10 squared, so I have to put that into brackets. So I'll put negative 10 squared take away 4 times a, which is 5, times negative 4, and I'll put that in brackets as well, and I get 180. So we could have done it with a calculator. Okay, so I can now write down my quadratic formula, and I'm going to do it twice, once with a plus and once with a subtract. So I'm going to start by saying, well, x is equal to negative b, so that's a negative of negative 10, which is 10, plus the square root of b squared take away 4ac, which I've already worked out as 180, divided by 2 times a, which is 10. And I'm also going to have x is equal to 10 take away the square root of 180 divided by 10. Okay, and now grabbing my calculator again, I've got 10 plus root 180 divided by 10, and that gives me 2.34. And then I can do the same thing again, but with a subtract. And that gives me a negative 0.34 to 2 decimal places. So my answers are going to be x is equal to 2.34 and x is equal to negative 0.34. Question 22. A ball dropped vertically falls d meters in t seconds. D is directly proportional to the square of t. So I'm just going to write that down over here. D is directly proportional to the square of t, so to t squared. Remember, this means directly proportional to. The ball drops 45 meters in the first 3 seconds. How far does the ball drop in the next 7 seconds? Okay, so I'm going to start by writing down an equation. So because I know that d is directly proportional to t squared, that means that d must be equal to something times by t squared. So that's something we're going to call k. And we're initially going to try and work out what that something is. Okay, so because I know this relationship now, and I also know that the ball drops 45 meters in 3 seconds, or in other words, when the distance is equal to 45, the time is equal to 3 seconds. So when d is equal to 45, t is equal to 3. Okay, so I can now substitute this into here to work out what this missing value k is. So 45 is equal to k times t squared, or k times 9, and I can write that as 9k. So if 45 is equal to 9k, if I divide both sides by 9, it tells me that k must be equal to 5, because 9 times 5 is 45. Okay, so now I know what k is, I know what this something is now, so I now know that the distance must be equal to 5 times t squared. D is equal to 5t squared. Okay, so now that I know that, I can use that to work out how far does the ball drop in the next 7 seconds. So if it's already dropped for 3 seconds and it drops for another 7 seconds, in total it would have dropped for 10 seconds. So the distance that it will have fallen in 10 seconds is going to be equal to 5 times 10 squared. So that distance is going to be equal to 500 meters. Okay, so after 10 seconds it will have fallen 500 meters. It had already fallen 45 meters in the first 3 seconds. So to answer the question, how far did the ball drop in the next 7 seconds, we need to do 500 take away 45. So 500 take away 45, and that gives us 455. So we'll write that down, 455 meters. So just to clarify what's happened, in the first 3 seconds it dropped 45 meters. We then worked out in the first 10 seconds it drops 500 meters. So it drops an extra 455 meters in the next 7 seconds. Question 23. We're given this diagram here and we're asked, is BCD a straight line? And we need to show the working to support our answer. So to decide if BCD is a straight line, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at what the vector BC is, and then we'll have a look at the vector BD, and then we're going to decide whether they are both going in the same direction. And if they are, then it's going to be a straight line, but if they're not going in the same direction, then BCD can't be a straight line. So let's work out what BC is first of all. So BC, the vector BC, is going to be equal to, and it's going to be 5a take away 2b, and then we want to go down here, and this is the opposite of 3a plus b, so it's going to be a negative 3a take away b. So we're going to take away 3a take away b, and it's take away because we're going in the opposite direction of that vector. So BC is going to be equal to 5a take away 3a, which is 2a, and negative 2b take away b, which is negative 3b. So we've got 2a take away 3b. Okay, and then we're going to work out what BD is. So BD, again, we're going to start with 5a take away 2b. And this time we're going down this path, and we're going in the actual direction of this path, so it's just going to be plus 3a take away 9b. Okay, and if we simplify that, we've got 5a plus 3a, which is 8a, and then we've got negative 2b take away 9b, which is going to be 8a take away 11b. Now 8a is 4 times as big as 2a, but negative 11b isn't 4 times as big as negative 3b, so these aren't actually going in the same direction. This isn't a multiple of this. So it says, is BCD a straight line? We're going to say no, because BD is not a multiple of BC. BD is not a multiple of BC, so it's not going to be a straight line. So my answer here is no.